Anthony Richardson gives the Indianapolis Colts the good and the bad on day 2 of training camp. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you all for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. This is your daily podcast covering your Indianapolis Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. Hello, everyone. My name is Zach Hicks, your resident film nerd of horseshoehuddle.com, and my partner, Jake Arthur, as always, is our credentialed sandals on the ground for the site. We're going to go sandals on the ground with how hot it is across the country right now. It is hot everywhere. But Jake is out there every single day watching practice, getting his notes down, getting his notes out for you guys over at horseshoehuddle.com. Make sure you are checking those out. You basically get this podcast in written form if you check out his notes. Today, we're going to go our typical way that we go through these training camp practices. We're going to talk about the quarterback and the quarterback competition. We're going to talk about offense and talk about defense to close it out. But before we get into these quarterbacks, Jake, we did have a couple players missing practice today. Zaire Franklin is still out with the injury. He does seem that he's getting closer and closer. The Colts didn't put him on PUP. They have said that he's not too far away. So hopefully we will see Zaire Franklin hopefully before August, but we'll see how long it is that he will be out. But then we had a couple players with rest days as well. Tyquan Lewis, Braden Smith, Kenny Moore, and DeForest Buckner. I did see a lot of comments from people calling this team soft and they're not going to be physical with these guys. But look, at the end of the day, these guys are 30 years old or around 30 years old, guys who have had injury past in this league. And the last thing you want to do is put more wear and tear on their body on back-to-back practice days when you already know what you're getting out of these guys. So if they were to start sitting like Tyler Warren for rest days, then I would say it's getting a little bit out of hand. But DeForest Buckner could go all summer and not touch a football field, go out there for day one and be one of the 5 best players on the field. Like, I don't care how much he misses in training camp. I know optically we all want the optics, but it doesn't really matter as much to me. But that's my little tangent to start off this show, Jake. I'm going to kick it to you about the quarterbacks. What were your thoughts overall on the 2 quarterbacks today? And, you know, we have in the title here, Anthony Richardson. We got the good and the bad. It seems like a typical Anthony Richardson day today.
Yeah, you got a little bit of a mixed bag from really everybody, the entire offense. Like, the passing game has been kind of a microcosm of a lot of what you're seeing on the offense in general. There's been some drops in both days. Like, it was a problem for Anthony's pass catchers on day 1. That kind of moved over to Daniel Jones today. You know, there's a couple false starts. Like, you're just seeing guys not quite on the same page yet, which, you know, it's fine. It's the beginning of training camp. I would hope with them having 4 consecutive practices to start camp that by next week you see stuff be a lot crisper. Because Jim Bob Cooter even said today, like, you want to see them get these gaffes and stuff out of the way now. It gives us something to teach, you know, and get out of them as coaches early on. So I'm not quite hitting the panic button yet, especially when you consider, like, Anthony was out the last couple weeks of the offseason program. And even when they all went out to California, he wasn't throwing. He was there to be with the guys, but he wasn't throwing. So they're just not quite there yet. I've seen it as more of an issue with both quarterbacks as something of timing and chemistry rather than just general, you know, inaccuracy. Although I think Daniel Jones, he had some throws today where I was like, that's not how it looked yesterday. So, yeah, the stats don't look good. Like, Anthony was 3 of 7 today. It was a little worse the day before. So I guess there's progress. But yeah, there's just an issue of, like, guys not coming down with contested catches and everything, which part of that is pass catchers not getting open and not getting enough separation. But I've also noticed an issue, and this kind of ties into the timing as well. Quarterbacks aren't really throwing guys open yet either. If it's not like a real quick RPO throw and it's one where they have to get through reads, the the lizard brain connection between the two guys is just not there yet. And again, I'm not hitting the panic button yet, but it's not been what you're hoping for either quarterback through the first 2 days. And I don't think either has separated themselves. They've both done really good things. They've both done, some head scratching things. Like Jones threw a pick on day one, Anthony threw one today. And I would have been ready to declare Anthony having the better day today, if not for that pick. It was bad. And I asked Jim Bob Cooter about it after. I was like, how do you coach up a thing where it wasn't a bad read to make that throw? Like, he had Doolin open down the right sideline, but the throw itself was just so bad. He just hung it up, and it was so behind Doolin that Juju Brents just had a welcome back gift, essentially, and he got the interception. So some good, some bad from both. Definitely not enough in these first 2 days to move the needle for either of them. They've got a lot of improving to do, though.
Yeah, and one thing I do want to put out there for context for people who maybe aren't too familiar with how the offseason program typically works is, the defense typically has the advantage in these like simulations prior to the year, especially when the pads are not on, just because, defense, you're more reading and reacting, where offense, you have to be in such sync, when it comes to what you are doing, in terms of timing, in terms of where guys need to be. So when you factor in that these quarterbacks are rotating, there's different quarterbacks out there for different guys. And then you're seeing the defense that's kind of in their strength right now, like where they want to be. Defense is going to win a majority of these. And what you see from these quarterbacks across the league, it's like, well, Drake May went 8 of 9 today or something like that, where Richardson's going 3 of 7. It's like, yeah, but most of those are probably like little checkdowns, or just little completions that wouldn't mean anything in a real game. So defenses typically have the advantage. And one thing I did want to throw to you, and I know this is the quarterback segment, Jake, but we'll make it a little bit about defense here, but this Colts secondary is really good. It's a really good secondary. So your opinion today, even with Kenny Moore out, what did the Colts secondary just make this much more difficult? Or are you seeing it like, I guess, how much is the secondary really playing into these struggles through 2 days?
That is a big part of it. It's not like these quarterbacks, and I don't want to pin it all on the quarterbacks because, again, the pass catchers have got to do their job to get separation and come down with the ball as well. Like, there's been too many drops through these first 2 days, but this secondary is good. Like, I'm not just saying that because of the performance, but like they're validating the players we already know they have. Like, we know Kenny Moore's good. We know Cam Bynum's good. Nick Cross, Charvarius, we know these are good players. And they're so high on Justin Wally, who's been in the starting lineup for 2 days. Like, these are good players that are out there, and they're making life very difficult for this passing game. I think they're going to feast on, crappy quarterbacks throughout the season. We'll see. They'll have their battles against, the upper echelon teams of the league, but this is a secondary that's going to have some really big moments this year. So we do have to take that into account. But at the same time, you can't just give the offense a pass all summer and say, well, they're going against a good defense. Like, they have to do their part to get better as well. Like, especially when you're going against the same coach and the same players day after day after day, you got to figure it out. Yeah. There's so much that goes into it. I don't think the quarterbacks have been bad. I think the communication and timing of the passing game has been relatively lackluster. But I've seen plenty of positive from both guys to think that this can get going. Again, this is just 2 days in. I do think it'll probably get going in the next week or so, but if not, then, you got to hit the panic button because you got a trip to Baltimore coming up, and then you got the Packers coming into town, and we saw what that defense looks like. Like, Jeff Hafley had that secondary going crazy last year.
Right.
So you've got 2 teams coming up in the next couple weeks that can flat out embarrass you if this doesn't get going in the right direction. But it's way too early for me to say that I'm down on them. Like, I think it will get better. But yeah, so far they're going up against a pretty good secondary.
Yeah. Overall, I'd say the panic meter is maybe at like a 4 or 5 right now. Like, it's enough to where, like, we already had preset panic with this quarterback room anyway. So that's probably where it's at, the 4 or 5. I don't think anything through 2 days has pushed us into full blown panic, but there's nothing through 2 days either that has made us like super comfortable with this quarterback room. It's practice 2 of 25 or whatever it's going to be. So, take it for what it is right now. It's still a long way to go into the season. These guys have time to get it on track, and we shall certainly see there. And real quick, Jake, they still focused on first and second down and RPOs and stuff today?
Yeah, it's the same thing today,
Okay.
which, within the first 4 days, I now anticipate they'll move on to third down maybe tomorrow and then red zone the day after. We'll see. I kind of thought they'd move on to third down today, but
Yeah.
they focused on the same stuff today as they did yesterday.
Okay, cool. I want to see them do more third and like medium to long simulations with them and just see these quarterbacks push it a little bit more and see what the results look like.
That's when I think the mask will come off and we'll start to see the progress guys have really made.
Yeah, that's really what I want to see there. But guys, we have more to talk about on the offense coming up here in just a second. We're going to talk about the rest of the offense around the quarterbacks and how drops and penalties were really the name of the game today.
This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. Fantasy football is back, so fire up the group chat, get your draft board ready, and buckle up for a season filled with breakouts, busts, and all the overreactions that we all live for. It's going down on Yahoo Fantasy. This year, Zach and I are playing on Yahoo Fantasy, at least one or two Yahoo leagues, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. Most of us have at least one fantasy league that we've been in for years. I've actually got like 3 Yahoo leagues that I've been in for at least a decade, and I love the interface. I hope those leagues never move anywhere else because Yahoo, very user-friendly, and I really, really like everything about it. Even going to waivers, all of it. It's very user-friendly, and there's just no reason to go anywhere else. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days, giving you more ways to play, more ways to draft, and more ways to win. And it all begins August 4th. So stay tuned and get started by creating or joining a Yahoo Fantasy Football League at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. That's yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. And let's make this fantasy season the best one yet. All right, so let's talk offense. The biggest non-quarterback thing I think we need to discuss, though, when it comes to the offense, Zach, had nothing to do with what was going on the field. So during the post-practice session, we get players and coaches over in the media tent, the one right next to us, 1070 The Fan, they get guys in there and get interviews going. So Bernhard Raimann was a guest on Jake Query's show, Query and Company today, and they got discussing Raimann is entering a contract year, and no matter what you think about the front office or if it's going to be replaced or not, it would be wise to lock this guy up to a contract extension because you do not want to go looking for a left tackle. And Raimann essentially said he's deferring a lot of this to his ownership. Like Raimann himself is kind of out of this. He's just focusing on football, but his representation has basically relayed to him that they're not on the same page with the Colts, and it does seem more about the contract figures, not necessarily the timing. Raimann wants to be back here. I think Zach and I are both pretty confident it'll get done. But I don't love hearing that a guy who is so essential to your present and future feels that he's almost in limbo with his contract situation. I don't think that's great.
Yeah, I mean, it's not great, but I think anytime that you get contract stuff spilling over to the media in any way, and I'm not saying that's what Raimann was going for today. It was a question he was asked, and he just kind of answered it honestly. I think it always sounds worse than what it really is. I mean, we would have thought that Jonathan Taylor never would have been extended in Indianapolis the way that it was going back in that summer. And lo and behold, a couple weeks later, he was back in the fold with a brand new shiny extension. So this doesn't even sound like it's a bad situation. It just sounds like two sides that are, a little bit apart in terms of yearly guarantees and overall contract structure. I think this will get done within the next couple weeks. I'd be shocked if this carries over. Like, I would say the absolute latest would be like the end of September would be the absolute, because I think Quentin Nelson's, when he signed his big extension a couple years back, was like the second week of the season. So the Colts do have a history of sometimes getting these things done in that first month of the year.
Braden Smith was the offseason as well.
Right. So I think we could see something like leak into September. Maybe Ryman's representation is waiting for Rashawn Slater's contract to drop here in the next couple weeks, and that's when they'll, up what they're asking for or base it around that. But I don't see this ever hitting like the open market or anything with Ryman, even if this year is a 2-win season and everyone needs to be let go. One of the few players you bring back is Bernhard Ryman, because you won't find a left tackle this good, especially if you're taking one outside of round 1. I mean, he's one of 3 or 4 starting offensive tackles that you would firmly put in the solid to good category that was taken outside of round 1 around the NFL. So, offensive tackles at his quality just don't hit the open market. And he doesn't really have any issues. Injuries have been there, but not really big injuries. Bernhard Ryman will be part of the Colts for a long time. I'm not too concerned about this. I know some people were freaking out about this headline, but it sounds like pretty standard contract stuff to me.
Yeah, I am confident. Again, you used the Jonathan Taylor one. I think that was a good measure. Even Kenny Moore the year before that, didn't seem great. He was one of the original hold-ins. That is kind of big now. But no, I don't think this will get too far in the weeds. But that's definitely something we're going to keep an eye on. We'll obviously talk about it as there are any developments that come up. But let's get back to the action on the field. So just some guys who were noteworthy today, I guess you could say. Before we get to the end of this segment, I'll go ahead and say it now because I keep getting pushed to talk about Riley Leonard. Whatever the validity of this is, I will give you guys a Riley Leonard highlight today. One of the plays of the day on offense. So he goes deep downfield to Laquan Treadwell, about 30, 35 yards. I can't recall who the defender was on Treadwell, but he tipped the ball up and then Treadwell kind of plucked it out of the air and got his feet in bounds. So a big, exciting play. It was good for a guy like Riley Leonard, who's the third string quarterback, to push the ball down the field. I don't think there's anything more boring than a third, fourth string quarterback who lives life on the field timid and won't push the ball down the field. So, he's not got the biggest arm in the world, but Leonard will push the ball down the field. So kudos to Riley Leonard and Laquan Treadwell.
Your big Riley Leonard highlight is him throwing a tip ball down the field where the receiver made the catch.
Hey, completions and yards matter, baby. That's going to go down as a completion, just like Daniel Jones pass to himself yesterday was a completion.
You know what? I'm going to start asking you to go play by play for me, just so I can break them down in my head of what's a good day or not. I need to you need to record practice for me. I know it's against the rules, but I need you to record everything for me, Jake, so I can validate these things that you were saying.
It goes down as a W in the books there. A guy talked about a little bit at the end yesterday, DJ Giddens. He got some action on offense today, made a couple decent plays, kind of got out of the woods a little bit. That's kind of his thing, is getting his way out of trouble in between the tackles. He did that today and bust off what looked like what would have been a legitimate chunk play. So that was good. And then he got a pass play that he took maybe 20 or so yards down the field. Jalen Jones let him know about it. Jones thumped him at the end of the play, which got the crowd going, ooh, wow. And I don't know if this was just joking or not, because Quentin Nelson went up to him and gave him a little shove. Quentin, for as stern and serious as he is off the field, he literally is a child in a bear's body with a bear's violence on the field. So he's very playful, but Quentin at least let him know, hey, don't do that to my guys. Whether it was playful or not, who knows?
Yeah.
But no, good day from Giddens, and I think we're going to keep seeing some highlights from him.
Yeah, and I heard you say the word Woods in that statement there with DJ Giddens. So speaking of Woods, I heard some Jelani Woods buzz today, and you even have it on our little sidebar here. Whisper Jelani Woods, y'all.
Oh,
what can you tell me about Jelani? Is Jelani Woods back on the football field? Who even is this man? Dude, who is this Jelani Woods guy?
He had a decent day yesterday. I feel like I recall him having a good day during either OTAs or minicamp back in June. And today, he made 2 big plays, I think, on one drive. Jones found him for 20, 25 yards, kind of streaking down the right sideline for a big play there. He's moving well. For a guy who's had leg injuries cost him the last 2 seasons, You never know if it's going to zap your athleticism or like your burst. And he still, to me, looks like he's moving as well as he ever was. The guy has just got to stay healthy. Like, let's cross all our fingers, knock on all the wood that this guy can get into the regular season healthy. Because I think, like, if he keeps making plays, there is if he keeps making plays and stays healthy, there's zero reason not to keep him on the roster going into the season. That dude has too much potential. You've been patient with him for 2 years. Don't be the team that doesn't reap the rewards of that if he goes on to be a good player in the NFL. So keep an eye on Jelani Woods. It's no longer a secret because I am now shouting it from the mountaintops.
Now, was he running with the ones during this, or was it with the twos?
Those mostly twos. That throw was from Daniel Jones with the twos, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
But there's so much rotation, especially a day like today where there's several vets out. Like, I didn't even mention lineups really in my notes today just because there was so much rotation. They're giving a lot of guys opportunities to earn spots.
Yeah. Now, speaking of lineups, though, coming up on the defensive segment, we will talk about a notable change to the starting cornerback rotation because that is something very interesting with Kenny Moore missing practice. So coming up, guys, we're going to talk about defense and a couple interesting little lineup changes and just starting roles that were a little different today.
Do you ever wish that managing your money felt easier? Well, with Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app also. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Personally, I think Monarch is a godsend for, I've never been a good financial person. Like, I get money and I spend it. I don't like to think about what's happening to it behind the scenes. But with Monarch, I got my daughter's college fund. I started up an Acorns account, like obviously a savings account, checking account. It doesn't have to get overcomplicated and be in a million places. Monarch helps get everything right into one spot to make it a lot easier and a lot less stressful. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off of your first year. All right, everydayers, welcome back. We're talking day 2 of Colts training camp. And Zach, before we get too far down the road here, I should have mentioned back in the offensive segment, today was a Danny Pinter day with the ones. So they are alternating, going back and forth. All right, so with that one out of the way, let's talk defense. One of the first things that caught my eye was the lineups with the defense because, first off, Kenny Moore was one of the rest days today, so that's your nickel that has been vacated. The lineup today was Charvarius Ward and Juju Brents on the outside with Justin Wally at nickel. Now, Wally was the other outside corner opposite of Ward while Moore was in there yesterday. So they've now given Wally 2 days in a row with the ones, once at outside corner, once at nickel. But I think just as interesting was, I don't want to say Jalen Jones is getting knocked down another peg, but this is 2 days in a row where they've had someone else be a starting outside corner. Now, Juju Brents, when healthy, you want to still give him an opportunity to compete, to be the starter. Like, you don't want a guy to just get shuffled down the lineup totally because he's injured. But I do like that they're giving these guys an opportunity to compete. I like that Wally has an opportunity to be there at nickel because it's going to be important if Kenny gets like a sprained ankle or something at some point in the season. You're going to have a capable guy go out there and play. Because, last year it was like Chris Lamons was your backup nickel. So having a Justin Wally be able to cross-train a little bit, I think it's pretty important.
I need you to relax with naming specific injuries in your hypotheticals. I don't want you manifesting that
he's had it. Here. He's had it before. That's why I went to the Rolodex. He has had an ankle sprain before.
Okay, I'm just gonna say if there's something that happens there with his ankle again, I'm calling you out. I'm calling you out everywhere.
I would deserve that.
Yeah, you would deserve it. But getting back to the conversation at hand here, it is interesting with Jalen Jones, and I'm curious. I will, we're talking panic meter throughout a lot of this episode. The panic meter for Jalen Jones being part of the lineup will really be solidified for me tomorrow. If tomorrow he comes out with the ones, I would just think, okay, it's a 3-man competition for that outside cornerback spot. But if it goes back to Wally again tomorrow, and then especially on Saturday, it goes back to Brent's, then I'm firmly in the camp that Jalen Jones got pushed down to cornerback 4, So I'm very curious to see how that rotation works there. And another thing to keep in mind, too, with this rotation outside corner, when it came to Gus Bradley and that tenure that he had here, it was mainly a 2 or 3 cornerbacks were getting all the snaps. That was basically how he used his entire secondary. Was the starters were getting all the snaps and reserve guys were never really rotated out there outside of a couple like Nick Cross moments over the last couple of years. Louis Anarumo is a little bit more flexible in terms of just giving guys more snaps, like, rotating certain guys in for certain packages. So part of this could be just getting all these guys ready. This could be a 4 guy outside cornerback room this year. And maybe Kenny Moore's not out there in base defense if they ever go to base defense because they feel good about the outside corner and just that overall rotation there. So I don't want to read too much into it yet. I want to see what tomorrow looks like and what Saturday looks like before we really freak out about Jalen Jones. But I am intrigued by this development here because I didn't think it was going to go this route. But we'll see if Jalen Jones can get in there. Another lineup thing that we got to talk about, though, is that other linebacker spot next to Jalen Carlies with Zaire Franklin out. Yesterday, Cameron McGrone got a bulk of the snaps, it seemed, with the starters. Today, I think I saw Joe Bocci was out there, right, Jake?
Yep, they were going bocce ball today, and he's looked kind of good. He had a pass breakup yesterday. Did another couple good things today. I think he had a pass breakup. Anything that's like over the middle of the defense, short, like he's going to be right there. Now, obviously, he's the Mike, but he's another guy that will go for the ball. Like he's not really passive in pass coverage. So I like what I've seen from him. He was also there to meet a couple guys in the hole running the ball today. So Bocce's been really good. It's been a pleasant surprise. Now I assume there's a reason he wasn't getting playing time in Cincinnati, but I mean, he's getting an opportunity. Like you don't just say, "Hey, you didn't play for your old team, so you're not going to play here." So we'll see. I mean, until Zaire Franklin gets back, they got to figure out who their backup linebackers are going to be. Because I'm kind of the persuasion now that there's a good chance Hunter Wohler might be the linebacker that gets the third most snaps. I think there's a decent chance of that. But I mean, if you have Franklin or Carlies miss a game or something, you need a traditional linebacker in there. It kind of seems like a 2-horse race between McGrone and Bocce.
Yeah, I think when you're looking at these depth players, it kind of comes down to just preference and like what we're looking for. Like a player like Bocce is a bit more limited. You're not going to get great pass coverage in terms of like range at the linebacker spot with him, but he knows this system really well. He's been in this system for nearly half a decade at this point. He can play the run pretty well. He was a Mike in college too. He's been a Mike for most of his career. So if you need just that cerebral player that knows what he's doing, you can put him out there. Or if you're going against a very fast defense or very fast offense, and you just want to match speed for speed, then a guy like Cam McGrone can make sense if this came down to one of these guys having to start. So depth backers are never going to be perfect. Depth players in general are never going to be perfect. So it's really about picking your flavor of the week there when it comes to those guys. And Bocce, I think, is certainly someone that this coaching staff likes. It's why they brought him over from Cincinnati. I did see some notes from you guys, and especially from you today, Jake, about the defensive line. I know the pads weren't on yet, but were there some notable developments with the defensive line today?
Yeah, this hasn't been a thing where like there's been a ton of like clear would-be sacks throughout this thing, but I think the defensive line got the quarterbacks out on the run a bit more today. I noticed, Neville Gallimore and Kwity Paye doing some things. Gallimore obviously filling in for DeForest Buckner on the starting line today. JT Tuimoloau was there a couple times to meet the quarterback or, get him out of the pocket a little bit. So it's been good to see those guys. They tweaked the defensive line rotation a little bit today as well at the end spot. It was Samson Ebukam and Kwity Paye with the ones today with Latu and JT Tuimoloau out as the second team guys.
Ooh.
I even said yesterday, it feels like Latu is firmly the starting other end opposite of Kwity Paye. But I think it makes far too much sense to make Samson Ebukam a second wave defensive end.
Yeah.
Not just to get Latu on the field, because you want to get Latu on the field, but you have a 30-year-old guy coming off an Achilles. You kind of want to conserve his snaps and make his fewer amount of snaps count. You don't want him playing 60 snaps a game. But we'll see. I mean, they might just want to give him some run with the ones. And another instance of a guy not just totally losing his job because he blew his Achilles last year. But yeah, that was the lineup today. Tuamoloau moving into Tyquan Lewis's spot with Lewis out. So we'll see if that gets more interesting and that they keep rotating that. Because since the spring, it's been Latu and Quiddipe like pretty much exclusively.
Yeah, and one thing I want to ask you, I don't know if you have this like lineup wise, but we saw with Gus Bradley how often he kicked defensive ends inside, like all the time. You know, it didn't have to just be Dayo Adangbo. We would see other like Laiatu Latu would be standing up over the center. Sometimes we would see Tyquan Lewis kicked inside. Have we seen really any of that so far with Lou Anarumo, or you just haven't really noticed it?
Not really that I've noticed, but I think it's because they've been working on early down stuff. Now, once they get into third down stuff and like goal line and more red zone stuff, I would imagine we see more of that, like Tuamoloau going inside or even Tyquan Lewis. It used to be more of a Dio thing, and I felt like they got away from all that a little bit.
Yeah.
But just taking guys away from what is their traditional spot on the line, we haven't seen a ton of that yet, but I do think we're going to see it in the coming days as they start focusing on different things.
Okay, because Lou Anarumo didn't do it as much as Gus did the last couple of years, but
and I don't expect a ton of it coming with the Colts either. But I mean, they have some guys they can move around a bit.
Yeah, I'm just curious to see if they have a guy that they feel like they can do that with, or if it's going to be a little bit more rigid and traditional with defensive tackles versus defensive ends. Like we'll see Gus mix it up. I mean, he does a lot of 3 defensive lineman sets. We see a lot of situations where it's all defensive ends on the field and no defensive tackles. Like he does do that stuff. So I'm curious to see like when they get into the third down stuff, like you mentioned, if they start putting some of those packages in, or if just for training camp he keeps it pretty traditional. For now. But that is all we have for today, guys. That is day 2 of training camp in the books. We'll be back with you guys again tomorrow, talking day 3 of Colts training camp. Hopefully both these quarterbacks complete every pass and they're all 70 yards down the field, just so we'll have a great day to talk about. But we will see tomorrow after practice. And I do want to remind you guys before we get out of here, though, the Locked On NFL Top 100 is here, voted on by the NFL host of Locked On Podcast Network. Our top 100 is formed by the experts that cover these teams and players every single day. Find the full list on Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. And if you want to become a Locked On Colts insider and chat with us directly and get that insider scoop, follow the link in our show notes. And if you don't already, make sure you're following at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at Zach Hicks 2, all on socials. Also, subscribe to us on YouTube where we listen to your podcast. We love your guys' ratings, reviews, and we'll catch you guys back here tomorrow afternoon.